So I've gotten a lot done on the lighting. I'm really digging this. So now there's a few things going on here. I really like this is with Perlin noise applied with the default scaling, which is the larger globs. And then there's a much finer scaling that's kind of just sort of eroded those shapes. And then applied the lighting. As this one actually, let me reapply the lighting because I'm not 100% sure this has directional applied to it. Actually, no, it's a little bit of a weird way you have to do this because this has had the lighting values mashed into the color values, and I'll explain that in a minute. But I have this ambient occlusion thing that I can apply now that scales the values in the lighting buffer based on the occupancy of the neighborhood of each cell. Not the occupancy, but the alpha values. So it's effectively an alpha. It's a weighted occupancy based on transparency. But then, okay, so then, and when you have lighting values already applied, you have to kind of really bring this down because otherwise it saturates. And that's kind of what I put in a little note here because that's when you start using that mash function, it becomes a lot more unstable in terms of trying to retain something that looks like something that's easy to control, I guess. Yeah, this kind of looked like blood cells to me, so I don't know. Here, I'll show you the two previous versions. This is what it made me think of red blood cells. Let me clear the lighting. Okay, it is cleared. But yeah, so this one is I don't know, a little bit of a red aura around everything. Shit. This is why we like the load save function. I need to probably add some confirmation that you want to quit so that you don't accidentally quit. So this is that one. And kind of see what's going on there. This is before that finer Perlin noise was applied. I'm not sure what the sorting is for this. I'm not actually manually sorting this at all. I could do that. That'd probably be a better way to do it. But this is the order in which they're given to me by the OS. I can't tell what the because it's not based on time. I don't know. So this is before any lighting is applied. Right, and that's that mash function that I was talking about. This is pre-mash. And I'm thinking of that as like the easiest way to express what that function is doing. It's a combination of the lighting buffer and the color buffer. And then this is with the lighting applied. And that is all down into the color data. So those sun shafts are not part of the lighting buffer. The lighting buffer is the same across the entire block, same as it was for the last thing. It's just the color values have been scaled in place by the lighting buffer and then stored as color data. But yeah, I'm really digging the combination of the ambient occlusion, and the ambient occlusion is very subtle, but it does add some softness to edges, and you make it a large enough neighborhood and it does look halfway decent. I am actually pretty into it. Yeah, I don't know, man. This is This is pretty fucking cool. Try and do this on a couple other ones. Let's see what we get. Trying to think what the best way to mask this would be. Let's go to mask by color, use alpha, 0, we're gonna allow 0 variance. We'll see if that does what we want. Nothing doing. Now my only thinking is that these orange bits are probably going to be included in that, bringing that up at all. Well, fuck it. We'll just embrace that. And cut into it. Okay. And yeah, it is just as I thought. You see it got applied into the orange. So all right, so we're just going to clear at a low level. Set the direction, set the value. I like to do the, well, see now, you do get different effects running the ambient occlusion and the directional lighting in different order. And I think I like the ambient occlusion than the directional in most cases. This is kind of cool. This is just, I think this is from the blurring. You can sort of see these discrete artifacts. It's blurring and then drawing over it. This is an older model that I did, but the lighting really brings out these discrete artifacts. Now, what's interesting is if you go in all the way to look at the individual voxels, you can actually see the little cubes and stuff. And it's interesting though because it's they're not exactly perfect cubes, and I think it has to do with how I'm stepping through the volume. It's not perfect, but I'm getting some pretty good results at this point. I don't know. So I sort of explained the mash thing. I'll show you how it goes wrong. It's easy to have it go wrong. Sorry, I like this color value, or this lighting, okay? These sun shafts look cool to me, and I want to keep it. All right, so I tell it mash, all right? Well, already, I haven't cleared the lighting buffer, so you see that it's being applied twice now, the lighting. I go back in here and I clear it. Now I have whatever in the lighting buffer, and then I have just this color data, right? This is the color data. And we have the sun shafts in it. But you see how that brought down the red channel in these stripes, just because that was it was a red cell from before, and it's being multiplied. You know, RGB is all being multiplied by that lighting value. So you know, it's maybe not terrible, but okay. So I apply some more lighting. Okay, well, maybe I decide that's what I want, right? And I match that. Okay, well, this is still cool and what I want. All right, I'm gonna go back. Well, see, now I was having issues with this before, but honestly, I'm not that upset by how this one's going. But yeah, so the one thing that I was noticing is it's when you apply lighting from different directions, that gets a little weird because you're still kind of seeing the old sun shafts a little bit. But I guess it looks like light from a couple different directions. But you can kind of get my notion that it's maybe getting a little messy. And it could potentially become not what you want. Or maybe that's what you're looking for. See, that's the thing is I'm trying to leave these tools very open-ended, so it's got a lot of room for creativity. I think having it be this system of there is this block of color data, and then each of these operations is applied as you know, it produces a new block of color data based on that existing color data and the operation that you applied to it. So this mask, well, and sort of a manipulation of state, and the state also includes all the masking, it includes all the lighting, color, lighting, masking. Yeah, that's really all it includes. This cellular automata, working on implementing that today. The notion there is that for each of the cells, you're going to evaluate cellular automata rules. So along the lines of that wire world thing that I did for my other class, it's going to be along the lines. This is an interesting algorithm that I have to learn more about. If anybody's curious, it's based on Softology's interpretation of something called cellular automata terrain, which is it's a single pass cellular automaton, which it's not your standard cellular automaton with you know, an update that just keeps happening. It's it's single pass, so it evaluates once, but then it generates forms. From what I understand, it has some similar logic to how the XOR texture is generated, in that it's a function of X, Y, and Z for every cell. Right, in that case, it's the binary XOR of the 8-bit values represent, well, yeah, 8-bit, because I'm in my code, I'm modding it by 256. But you know, that XOR function applies to any binary numbers. But yeah. Well, and there you go. See, if you just mash the same color data, you're going to black and white. it's because that's how the scaling goes, and that's maybe an interesting way to saturate it. Huh. Okay, I mean, I'm leaving it that way because it's got interesting potential. And that flickering on the edges, this is I need to figure out what that is. I think it has something to do with floating point precision. And it's only just there on the edges and only on certain faces. So, like I say, it's got to do with the floating point to integer conversions when referencing the image object. Yeah, I mean, you can get kind of an interesting noir effect here that actually keeps some of the color in the shadows. This isn't actually bad. It's just kind of stylized.